rapidly.
But, Mr. President, I just want to hear you clearly. You're saying the people who have been here for years and who have been even paying taxes, you're going to look at them very differently, and maybe they belong here in the workforce?
I want to work with them, and in some cases, we're sending them back to their country with a pass back in legally, and we're doing things that are very difficult to do and very complex, but it works really well. We're sending them back, and then they're schooling, they're learning, they're coming in legally. We have a lot of that going on, but we're taking care of our farmers.
So did you hear that Trump pulled out a racist trope from the era of American slavery when talking about undocumented workers? Yeah, he was being interviewed on CNBC when he said this about people from Central and South America working on American farms.
These people do it naturally. They don't get a bad back because if they get a bad back, they die.
These people do it naturally. That's precisely what slaveholders said about enslaved African Americans to justify slavery. They claimed the natural place of African Americans in the world was to be enslaved because they naturally had lower intelligence and naturally had bodies that could withstand hard labor, long hours, infectious diseases, and extreme heat. Or as Trump put it, they could be worked almost to death and, quote, they don't get a bad back. According to enslavers, black people occupied a position in the natural order that was a notch or two above livestock, but well below the status of white people. That's clearly how Trump sees the largely Latino workforce laboring on American farms. But Trump wasn't done with the racism. He made it clear that in his ideal world, black Americans would be the ones laboring in those fields. But alas.
You know, people that live in the inner city are not doing that work. They're just not doing that work. And they've tried, we've tried, everybody tried. They don't do it.
There you have it. Those inner city black people should be doing the farm labor. But according to Trump, they're just too lazy. As he put it, we, white people, have tried everything, but they, black people, refuse to work. So much racism in just a few sentences. And the eggs, still expensive.
So Donald Trump, not in these exact words, but basically admitted this week that a lot of the things that he's been doing, a lot of the policies, a lot of the executive orders that he's been signing off on was all made with the intention of getting black people back into the field. It was made with the intention of getting black people back into the field. All right, so on Tuesday, Donald Trump made an appearance, right, on CNBC's Squawk Box. And on that platform, he actually made a lot of commentary in regards to the situation with the deportations, migrant workers, the state of America's agriculture, and he made comments on inner city people not doing farm work.
Y'all, so apparently the Republicans thought if they got rid of the illegals, and they put more financial pressure on the black communities and the people of color that are American citizens, that we would want to go in the fields and we would want to, basically that we would want to do the work that the previous citizens that hadn't yet to obtain their citizenship would do.
Donald Trump, don't backpedal now. Now you're saying or acting like you're regretting or that it was a mistake that you did this mass deportation, although you set it in place and this was planned and thought out way before your presidency when y'all were concocting up this Project 2025. You had plenty of time to think about the consequences this was going to have, and you still proceeded with it. So now you're just realizing that all immigrants aren't criminals. Now you want to realize that they are actually hardworking people that have been working on these farms for over 20 years and just want to make an honest living for their family. Now you want to realize that now you have shipped all these hardworking immigrants off to their native land, that us Americans are not going to want to work in these fields for the prices that they are paying these immigrants. Now,
hey guys, it's Leash. Listen, your president, not mine, has decided that he is going to reverse this whole deportation situation and is suggesting that people come back to America to work these farms and everything. Not saying sorry, not acknowledging that what he did was probably one of the most horrific things you could do to people and families, children, tearing families apart or anything. No, he is basically saying that, the farmers here need help. And so they're going to educate them, get them legally sent back to this country to do the work that he thought the folks in the inner city would have been able to do.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for your support and thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. In today's video, I came across this interview where DT is saying that immigrants should come back to work on the farms and that white Americans can quote unquote take a break. Now the internet never forgets, because remember, this is the same man who spent years pushing mass deportations, slamming immigrants and bragging about getting them out of the country. Back then, the idea of floating around was that those farm jobs could be filled by the Americans, and many thought that black folks could step in and do the work. Let's get to the video, but before, let me play a few clips on the same and I'll be back with my commentary. All credit goes to the original creators of each and every video you see here.
I want you to always remember that when they mention inner city, that means black. In Donald Trump's exact words, people that live in the inner city are not doing that work. They've tried. We've tried. Everybody tried. They don't do it. These people do it naturally. Naturally. They don't get a bad back, because if they get a bad back, they die. He also went on to say that they are very, very, very special people and they cannot be easily replaced. Remember what I said, anytime that they mention the words inner city people, inner city communities, inner city neighborhoods, that's black. That's code for black. Black, blackity black, okay? Black people. And it is because of that exact commentary that it reconfirms for me, okay? Not confirms, but reconfirms, meaning that I already knew. But it reconfirms that the plan from the very beginning with these executive orders, right, was to further destabilize black communities, further destabilize poor communities, but black mainly, so that you could put pressure on these communities so that you could get them to go back into the field, right? And then once you get them back in the field, bingo, you've made America great again. Modernize slavery. But black people said, fuck you and this little game that you want to play. Since we are the most valuable player on the scoreboard, we will remove ourselves and let's see if this game is still going to continue. And that's in fact what we're seeing right now. Donald Trump thought that by forcing all of these other people out, taking away our Medicaid, doing all of these things to further destabilize our community, that we would conform, that we would just do what he wants us to do, what the whites of this world, what white supremacy wants us to do. But black people decided to pull a Uno reverse and they did nothing, which is something that they're not used to black people doing. They're used to black people having this spirit of rebellion, having this spirit of revolution. But instead, black people decided that, you know what, I'm going to preserve my energy for me and my people, but I'm also going to remove myself from this game entirely. And now everything is starting to crumble. The way that the America agriculture is taking a huge hit right now because of Donald Trump and his deportations. Like, I don't think that you understand how much America survives off of the labor of undocumented workers. And when I say y'all, I mean all the other races. Black people knew, because black people were telling you. They told you, don't do this. Don't do this, because we're not going back in the field.
Clearly, if you read between those lines, he thought that black people were going to get out in these fields and do the work that the folks that he deported would have done. And to that I say, sir, you are so detached from the people that it is pathetic at this point. How in the hell did you think that black people were going to get in the fields and do that work? Like, is anyone like consulting with you? I'm being so serious, y'all, because it's like, sir, most black people are established in some way, which speaks to the lack of understanding and knowledge and whatever else you want to say as it relates to black people and understanding the progression of black people in this country. Not everybody's waiting for some handout and, oh yeah, I'll go work those fields. Like, you're smoking something, sir. And it's not good. It's not good. So yeah, that's your president. He's a hot mess. And Yeah.
Now you're seeing that the farmers are suffering because of your dumb ass decisions. And it's sad because your blatant racism wouldn't allow you to actually delve into how agriculture works and how important the immigrants are when it comes to farming. And now you want to sit on a podium saying something needs to be done and that we have to use our common sense. Don't get French with us now. We ain't got to do nothing because I did not vote for you. I did not do this. So you need to fix this since they, the MAGA people, voted for you.
Now, hear me out. When the produce immediately changed, at first I was a little annoyed. I live in Arizona for perspective. So yeah, they here. They out here for real. And it hit us immediately. It hit us immediately. Do you hear me? When the produce went bad, at first, and not bad, but like it just was, you could tell. Like you can tell the difference. At first I was a little annoyed, but then I sat back and was like, no, actually, no, for real. That's what they need. They need to see that. And it wasn't just the produce. That's the crazy part. It was the produce and so much other shit that immediately like came like a wave through Arizona. They needed that wake-up call. I've been staring at a house that has been taking upwards of at least, I want to say 7-8 months to finish. Before they left, I used to watch, because this is where I live at, the whole strip is being developed. I watched them complete an entire development in under a year. I watched them complete an entire development in under a year. For perspective, it's a big ass development too. The entire development was done in under a year. There are houses on this strip in the past 6 months, they just been sitting at a standstill. Crickets, where y'all at? When the produce went bad, I was annoyed at first, but then I said, no, they need this wake-up call. They need to know the contribution, citizenship or not, that these people actually make to this country. They need to understand that a land that was already built off of stolen land does not give you the right to kick people out when their ancestors were indigenous to this land. You need to understand the contribution and the amount of work that they did the jobs you didn't want to do, that I don't want to do on a daily basis. You also need to understand their contribution. Now, Trump wants to bring them back legally. Because he's like, them niggas is not trying to get out there in the sun. And they not trying to do none of that work. And not. Why? So you can treat us 10 times worse? You gonna have to pay to play, baby. You gonna have to pay them people to come back here. You gonna have to pay them people to come back here. Y'all humiliated them in front of the whole world in the nastiest, most vicious ways. You gonna have to pay them people to come back here. Oh, and just so you know, our produce has increased. So I know they let some of y'all back in. I know they let some of them back in. Don't lie. I know they pushed some of them applications through and was like, listen, when can you clock back in? Okay? Everything's going to shit. I bet it is. I bet it is. I bet it is. You need to issue a very public apology. You need to offer them something. Offer them something. Offer them something. Excluding the Cubans that was like, oh my God, I vote for Donald Trump. Lead them out. They wasn't doing no work, no way. They wasn't doing no work, no motherfucking way. They think that they white. Lead them out. But yeah, y'all, Donald Trump said that because the black people don't want to do the jobs that the illegal citizens that they deported, because they don't want to do those jobs, they gonna have to let some people back in.
But here's the thing, that plan never worked. The reality hit hard. Black Americans were not lining up to pick strawberries in 100 degrees heat for low pay, and neither were most white Americans. Farming as immigrant labor, especially from Latin Americans, and that has kept Americans' agriculture alive for decades. DT's mass deportations left farms scrabbling, crops rotted in the fields, farmers lost millions, prices went up at the grocery store, and now, in 2025, it's suddenly saying that immigrants can come back, but this time they shouldn't come back legally. The irony is still there. Black communities in particular remember how DT's migration crackdowns were framed as opening up jobs for them, as if they were just waiting around the corner to become farmhands. They knew this was not just about giving them opportunities, it was about using them as a political talking point while targeting immigrant communities. Now, those same politicians are quite admitting that they can't keep the country running without the very people they pushed out. What an irony. And let's talk about the whites can take a break comment from DT. It's almost likely that DT is openly dividing labor along racial lines. Immigrants do the hard work, low-paying work, and white Americans get to step back. That's not just awkward. It's a peek into how some people really feel the labor system in America. Even some of his supporters are also scratching their heads and saying, wait, wasn't the whole point to replace immigrant labor without American labor? On social media, the responses have been hilarious. Memes are popping out with captions like, oh, now you need us. We told you this would happen. The Black Twitter is especially quick to point out on how DT's own policies created this labor shortage. And now he is scrabbling for a solution that looks a lot like the system they had before. Only that this time, there is more paperwork. At the end of the day, this is more than just funny. It's a perfect example of what happens when political slogans meet economic reality. You can't deport away the backbone of an industry and expect it to magically run itself. Farms need workers, America needs those workers, and no amount of campaign spin changes the fact that the people that DT pushed out are the same people he is now asking to save the day. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.